Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? Before we get started, if you are joining me for the first time, although M&Ms are really yummy candies, it actually stands for magical manifestors because we are manifesting with our thoughts, with our actions. So with this podcast, we make sure that we are manifesting the things that we truly desire. And today, our guest is Brennan Lagman, who is a meditation coach. So we're going to dive into meditation and how meditation helps us attract an abundant life. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
I am doing great. It's so nice to join you from Vietnam, all the way on the other side of the globe. But I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yay. So before we dive into your story of who you are and what you do, I want to ask you, what does abundance mean to you?
That's a great question. I think that abundance really is a vibration. It's an energy. And so it's just the energy of, I really like the quote, like, there is only more. One of my coaches and mentors talks about how there is really only more. And there's actually no such thing as less, because the universe is constantly expanding and it's constantly growing. So when we operate from a place of like, oh, I want less of this and more of that, it's actually false. We can actually only have more. We can only have more of what we don't want or more of what we want. And so I think abundance is really tuning into the truth. Like, the truth is that this universe is abundant and it's consistently expanding, and we are consistently expanding. And the illusion that we're having less or that we're lacking something doesn't actually match the vibration of what this reality is. So really, abundance to me is just tuning in to the truth that there is infinite, money, wealth, opportunities, love, and we just have to decide whether or not we want to access it or not.
I love it. Yes. So when we first connected, I was just like, oh my God, this is my new BFF.
Right. I was like, hey, how about me?
So tell us about you. Who is Brennan Lagman?
Wow, who is Brennan Lagman? I think that I am a jack of all trades. I am everyone, everything in a weird way. Like, I am this mixed race kid who's Filipino, Black, white, Native American. So I've got a toe on every continent. I'm also queer. I come from a very mixed family with 13 kids if you count step siblings and half siblings, so there's like multiple daddies and moms involved. So yeah, I'm just someone. I've been to 18 schools. I've been to 21 countries. I've got degrees that span 3 continents and 4 different universities. So I really am someone I think I was born on this earth to have many different experiences and navigate many different experiences so that I can be able to relate and kind of be a guide for many different people who don't necessarily share the same social locations or identity markers as me, but I'm definitely able to empathize and put myself in people's shoes. And so meditation has really helped me to find myself and really center myself in kind of all of the disarray that has been in my life. And so I discovered meditation when I was just 19. And so it's been about 11 years that I've been meditating. And it's been a really integral tool in me, again, just kind of centering myself in this world and knowing who I really am.
I love that. I so many countries, so many schools. So I actually have been to 11 different schools, and I thought that was a lot. So it's always amazing to hear someone else that has a similar experience. And at first I used to think that it made me not have stability, but then I realized that it's something that made me able to mold to any situation, and I can meet anyone and connect with anyone, different backgrounds, different, you know, like nationalities, just different, just I can connect with anyone, and it's a beautiful skill to have. So I'd imagine that that's something that is one of your strong suits, being able to relate or just build that rapport with anyone, no matter where they're from.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
I love it. So, you touched a little bit about how you discovered meditation, but how would you say it's made a big impact in your life?
Um, well, when I first discussed, so meditation kind of has like two phases for me. There was like the first phase when I was 19 and my parents moved to China, and I was going to university alone, and I was in California, and I was just on my own. I was only 19 years old, and so the world was this big scary place. I was getting kicked out of school. My family was gone. My home was gone. No more home for the holidays.
Hmm.
And I was extremely depressed and anxious, and I was drowning in drugs and alcohol, and I was living in a fraternity house and just getting messed up every day. And at one point, I had taken so much ecstasy one night that I blacked out, and the next day I had chewed up the inside of my mouth so much that I couldn't
Mm.
eat any food for a few days, and I was just like tired of what I was feeling. And my mom, she had discovered this form of meditation a couple years earlier, but I felt like it made her go off the deep end. So because I resented her for moving to China. So I was like, oh, forget meditation. And then one day I just called her. I was like, Mom, I need to meditate. So we meditated over Skype, and that there was a very clear experience for me in that moment, in that I had a moment of feeling alive. And
Mm.
I, for a long time, was feeling dead, really. And I remember talking to my friends and saying, you know what? I never felt happiness before because I meditated and I felt happiness, and it was so unique. It was so special. It was like, oh, this is a level of happiness. This is a level of being alive that I don't remember ever feeling before. So everything that I had called happy before this was not happy, because this is true happiness. And the
Mm.
next day after that experience, I quit drinking, I quit doing drugs the very next day, and I just became super dedicated to my spiritual growth. I started getting up at 5 a.m. and meditating. And I went from being like the partier who won the Bob Marley Award for the guy who smokes the most weed to like super like focused on meditation. And I just, not only was I focused on it, but I wanted to give it to everyone. I started telling everyone about it. I started teaching everyone about it. I would like sit with like all my fraternity pledges, like 13 of them. I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna teach you guys how to meditate. Just like meditating with strangers and in the park, meditating with homeless people at the
Mm.
bus stop. Like I was like, hey, do you want to try meditation? Hey, do you want to try meditation? I went up to my university professors. Can I teach meditation to the class? And it just took me. I went around the world. I taught at seminars, at universities, all around the world. But I also joined a religion. So it was like there was the meditation practice, and then there was like the religious following. So 7 years later, when I came out of the closet, I was excommunicated from the religion. So I
Mm.
like stopped meditating completely because there was a lot of just pain surrounding my practice.
Yeah.
So that was like 2016. So between 2016 and last year, I entered probably the darkest time of my adult life here in Vietnam, because I didn't have that spiritual self-care routine anymore. So my mental health went horrible. Like there were times that I was very suicidal. And about a year ago is when I just was like, you know what, forget this religion, forget this following. These tools are powerful and they are living inside of me. So I'm just gonna dive back into it. And I have completely, like, I feel like I'm back, but even more than I was before. So it really helped me to ground within myself, to become centered. And I think it's helped the like, I think of myself and people like as a tree, right? And so it's not that like the weather of our lives, the emotions that come, you can't stop a storm. What can a tree do to stop a storm? It's going to come, it's going to do its thing. Now, if you are a tree that's rooted and your roots are very deep and they're very wide, then you might have a few leaves blow off. But if you're not, that thing can come toppling over. So it's not that some magical thing has happened where I don't struggle and I don't feel and I whatever, but it's more that my resilience to struggle, my resilience to the stress of life is much greater now, and I'm able to cultivate that sense of peace amidst any kind of so much easier.
I love it. So, before we dive into the 4 M's of meditation, do you think that that phase you went through is what people consider the dark night of the soul?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And
for someone who
yeah,
doesn't know what that means, how would you explain that?
well, I mean, I, I feel like I've had a few in my life. And but I think that was definitely for me. My intuition is telling me that was the lowest and darkest and final kind of dark phase of my life, before like kind of moving beyond that. And because I mean I'm not so sure about like the level of spirituality of your listeners, but I have realized that I have a lot of past life kind of traumas and debts that I have a twin sister. And so it's really interesting that like we just turned 30 this year. So our first 20 years were filled with lots of shit. And we're both just like emerging at the top of our game when like 2 years ago, like she was in a domestic violence shelter and I was just like
Mm,
suicidal, and it was like really horrible. But I felt like the past 3 years, the 2016 when I came out of the closet and I graduated and was excommunicated, that was entering the darkest, most challenging time of my life. But what um, the kind of boon or the kind of blessing that I've seen come from that dark night of the soul was that it was really an opportunity for me to purge a lot of shit. And so there was like the night is darkest before the dawn. So the dark night of the soul, and from my experience, is there's something really, really good that the universe is trying to send you, but you cannot receive that until you purge what is not a vibrational match for that which is coming to you. So as long as you still have things that are unhealed, cycles of codependency, toxicity, negative stories that play in your mind, then you can only attract that which you are a vibrational match for. So the universe might be trying to send you high vibrational partners, situations, job opportunities, but you're still at a low vibration, so you can't even actually receive those things. So it was this like long, challenging purging of all of my crap, reopening of all of my childhood stuff, so that the universe is like, now you can let that go. And now it's time to fill that space with more good things. So that's my understanding of the dark night of the soul, just from my own experience.
yes, beautiful. I literally had chills like when you were saying that. So yes, I 100% can relate to that and think that's a beautiful way of explaining it. So what brought you to Vietnam?
So,
Look, I'm hitting you with
well,
all the deep questions.
no. It's just like my life is like crazy. So when people ask, like, a lot of people are like, I went to Vietnam because I was trying to travel the world, and mine was like not like that. I am like an economic refugee basically, because when I was in school for 8 years, I was living off of financial aid and scholarships and, and grants. And so my final year of university, I was a Fulbright finalist to get a fully funded graduate degree in London. And I was so sure I was going to get this award that I didn't have a backup plan. So when I didn't get it, I freaked out because I was living in Orange County, California. It's really expensive and I was running out of money. So I, had been living on my own, but I depended on school for so long. So I hit up my uncle who lived in Wisconsin, and he said I could come live with him and work on his farm. So I moved across the country. I was with him for 3 months and it just didn't work out. Long story short, he gave me 30 days notice to move out. And at that time, my mom was homeless in LA. My brother was homeless. Like, there was nowhere for me to go. He was like, you can move back to LA. And I was like, you're from Wisconsin, bro. You do not know, like, LA. Like, I don't have money for that, And so he was giving me 30 days notice and I had like $800. So I just looked and I was like, well, I planned I had this like 6 month plan of saving to go to Vietnam. And I was like, I'm just going to go. I have my bachelor's degree. I've been around the world already. I could either buy a ticket to Vietnam from LA, it's $400, or like that's not even a deposit on an apartment. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not even like food for longer than a month. So I was like, whether I move to LA or I move to another city, it's the same thing. I'm going to look for a job. I'm going to look for a place. So I just bought my ticket and I got my visa and I arrived in Vietnam with 2 days accommodation and I just hit the ground running. I just started applying for jobs. I got a motorbike the second day. I rented it. I crashed 3 times. I was wading through tropical storms, pushing my bike. It was a mess, but I've now been here for 4 years and this is my home. Life is way easier here. It's way easier to be an entrepreneur here. I live better here. My quality of life is much higher than it is in the United States. And I live off of about, like, if I'm frugal, about $800 to $1,000 a month. And I have all the same comforts, if not more than I would at home. Like, for an example, last weekend I did a self-care 3-hour healing package at the spa, body scrub, facial, foot massage, body massage, sauna for $40. Like, girl,
I'm coming
like,
to visit you.
Back home. I'm like, what is that? I've never been to one of those. So.
I'm coming to visit. That's it. I'm coming to visit.
Come through,
So, okay, I absolutely love this story, and I want to share with the M&Ms why I love this story. So, I think that the key to meditation is finding inner peace, inner stability, and inner security. So one of the things that causes so much stress is external worries. So bills and your home and paying rent and all of these external things. And so I believe that the reason why you've been able to have this exciting life that's been up and down and you've still been able to maintain yourself and your identity is because of meditation, bringing you back to your internal strength, and you're not getting it from external things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. So let's dive in. Let's dive into the 4 M's of meditation.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Before I jump into the 4 M's, I wanted to share a little bit about this. This is a concept that I came up with, and it's really related to what you were just saying about like how meditation helps you to kind of focus on your internal self rather than on like external things. So I came up with this concept that kind of intuitively came to me. And because I think that a lot of people think meditation is this like, it's just limited to this activity that we picture of like where I'm sitting and my hands are like a certain way, and it's an activity I do in the morning and I do in the evening, rather than it is a state of being. I think that a lot of people picture that meditation is like this like state of silence within and this state of like stillness, but really everything in this universe is alive and it's vibrant and it's moving. And so meditation is really actually a living process, and any living process is not actually still. So the way that I see it is like, imagine that you have a car and you have this car that's full of people and you're trying to get to whatever destination that you want to get to. However, sometimes your passengers reach over and they try to grab the steering wheel, and you're like, wait, where are you going? And they steer you away. So what are these different drivers? Well, first, we have like the thinking and the acting self. Okay, so that's over here, and that driver is the source of our ego, of our thoughts, of our actions, of our future orientation. This is the one that drives us forward in life, the one that gives us our momentum towards what we want to achieve and what we want to acquire. Then we have the judging and the feeling self, which is coming from our past, coming from our conditionings and our subconscious. This is the source of our emotions and our judgments, and also kind of like the stories that we tell ourselves or that have been kind of created from our past experiences. Then we also have the primal or the instinctual self, or the source of our instincts, like our desires to go for food or to go for sex, or those different things. And then we have the higher and the integrated self, which is the source of our intuition. It is the part of us that is connected to kind of higher realms of consciousness and connectivity. And so all of those are different drivers. They're different kind of passengers that we want in the car. But what brings it all together, and what the goal of meditation is to not let any of these drive more than the others, is the aligned and aware self. And so meditation is, to me, about taking control of the wheel and allowing you, yourself, that is aligned and that is aware and that is grounded and centered, to not be taken over by the ego or by the emotions or by, even sometimes our higher self, if we're like stuck up in dreamland and, we're not here down on earth, right? Or the primal self would be like, you can't control your urges to maybe eat food or to like, go after things that fulfill kind of like a primal desire. So it's really about expanding the aperture of that aligned and aware self, the you that is aware of who you are, what you need, what your powers are, what your capabilities are, and you're just grounded and centered in that. So like I said, it's like that way, no matter what's happening, like, you're not knocked over by insecurities, like, oh, I'm not good. You're very aligned in saying like, oh, just because I didn't do well at that, it doesn't mean that I'm not capable. And so that's kind of what the goal is, to align within yourself. And then the 4 M's of meditation. So I came up with these because I think, again, a lot of people, like, meditation is a really ambiguous, like, concept. That's like a hot term. And so I want to bring some more nuance to it. And it's interesting that you call your like followers the M&Ms, and then here we have like the 4 M's. So I came up with this to kind of show how meditation can expand beyond, again, that activity that you do, like brushing your teeth at the beginning and the end of every day, to a state of being that is within you and accessible in many different forms, So there's mental silence meditation, which is kind of what people are hoping for, right? And this is a meditation or a practice in which you reduce all of the mental and emotional noise. And I think that this is a form of energy work, because thoughts and emotions are actually energy. So you're working with the energy of the thoughts and the emotions, and you're trying to reduce the energetic impact of thoughts and emotions and increase the energetic stability of the aligned and aware self. And so it's possible through meditation to achieve mental silence, but just because you don't achieve mental silence doesn't mean that there's not something happening, right? So I want to give a more nuanced thing, because sometimes people sit there and they're like, oh, well, my mind's not silent, I give up. And it's like, wait, but you don't have to have a silent, like, that's not the only state of meditation. It has its different flavors, I can say. And then there's mindfulness. And so mindfulness is often conflated with mental silence. And so the problem with mindfulness is it's a form of focus. So it's really hard to achieve mental silence by focusing. So it has its benefits, but it's really difficult to use that to get silent within. So mindfulness is just bringing your awareness down from the brain space into the body and into the experiences of the present moment, your five senses. It's also like if you do any kind of breath work or movement or yoga, just like being aware of what is happening in your body and the sensation. And then there's mindlessness, okay? And so this is when you do things that allow you to kind of go on autopilot, and kind of put you in between a space of like mental silence and concentration. And so in that space is where we daydream and where we think about and process things that have happened in our day. So that would be tuning into the default mode network in the brain, which, without talking too much about that, it's basically just our autopilot. Things when we're using muscle memory, like walking or driving. I don't know about you, but like sometimes I feel like when I'm driving, I'm actually relaxed because my brain is like it's concentrating just enough to allow me to not worry about everything and just kind of be present, And so that would be mindlessness. It's also turned on when we're like watching movies or listening to podcasts. And then there's mental noise. So mental noise is not always the enemy of meditation. Doing meditation using mental noise is about training your mind. It's about focusing on what you want to focus on. It's doing the mindset work and really eliminating the thoughts that no longer serve you and making the noise of the thoughts that benefit you louder than the noise of the thoughts that don't. So if you're only like working on one muscle of meditation, it's the same way of like working on one muscle or working out in the gym. If you only work flexibility and you don't work strength, then you have a problem. If you only work strength and you don't work flexibility, then you have a problem. So it's important to move through all of these and make sure that you're paying attention to all of them, because like I love the analogy of movement and of being physically active. The more the human body thrives in variety. Let's just say that, right? The more of a variety you have in your diet, in your fitness regimen, whatever it is, the more resilient you are to change. So if I'm flexible and strong and powerful and I have endurance, then if a zombie apocalypse happens, I'm more likely to be able to meet the challenges of that, right? So it's really about just trying to move in all four of these directions rather than just one.
This is absolutely brilliant. I love it. And I love how you break it down, because I have so many people that say to me, like, I can't meditate, I can't quiet my brain. And, I try to explain it's not always about quieting your brain. It's about observing what's going on in your brain, So I love how you broke this down. And I think that people are going to find a ton of value in this. If you were looking for a sign, here it is. This is your reminder to not settle, to know your worth, and to follow your bliss. This is a reminder to maintain alignment and show up in your fullest expression. Abundant and Aligned Society is an accountability program to remind you that you are a powerful being and you deserve to live the life you truly desire. Go to niajae.com/society to join in on the magic, because life is meant to be abundant. You mentioned movement. Are you referring to, because there's a lot of movement practices that are meditative. So like nonlinear movement is one, somatic descent is one. They even have like chakra dance is another one. So these are meditative movements where you're kind of tapping into your body to see what's going on, or moving the energy through your body to release some trapped emotions, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And so movement has been such an integral part of my healing. The problem with how we approach meditation, how we we're looking up at this mountain and we're like, that is meditation. And the problem with how we approach it is that we approach it through the same faculty that works against it, and that is the mind. We approach it and we try to understand it through the mind. But when we have been taught that the brain is the source of all intelligence, and so that means that the brain is where this happens, this meditation happens. But when you break that conditioning, the idea that the brain is the source of meditation, and you look at actually the whole entire body is a brain. Let's forget the idea that the brain is the brain, and let's say that the entire body is the brain. And that means that not only if I have a mental imbalance or a mental health disorder, are there like emotions or thought patterns or like chemical imbalances in my brain, they're actually also in the tissues of my body. So a lot of my healing over the past 3 years has led me to things like yin yoga, myofascial release, like releasing tension and trigger points in my body where I've been rolling on a ball and I like, all of a sudden I'm like 6 years old and there's this like really specific emotion that's like in this specific pain point in my body that I didn't even realize I was walking around every day with this discomfort in there. So I think that, and what you brought up about all these different modalities, I think that the modality should be the gateway. And then once you achieve a modality, break it into a million pieces. Because the problem with modalities are that we are being shown something that someone went within themselves and discovered. And then instead of following suit and going within ourselves and discovering something, we are just regurgitating what someone else discovered. And so the purpose is that each of us is infinitely capable of adding to the collective pool of knowledge of how to heal, how to meditate, how to be in tune. And instead of just regurgitating what old dead men from someplace long and far away have come up with, it's really about tuning into the magic that is beneath your skin. So I got started with yoga, and then if you look at the movements that I post, people are like, are you a dancer? Are you trained? I'm like, no, I just move. I just spend hours with my own body, and I close my eyes and I listen to like, what are the connections? What are the lines? What are the things that move, you know? And so there's a lot of intelligence underneath the skin. So that mindful movement of just really, I think what I teach that people love in meditation is I teach them to inquire within. Ask your body what it needs. Ask your body what it needs. Don't ask someone, can you tell me what my body needs? Right? Like your body is aware and it's conscious, and it is the most exquisite and advanced piece of technology in the entire universe. And like, there's so much intelligence and wisdom beneath your own skin. So whether you decide to do yoga or yin yoga or any of these movements, the key is to be in your body. All right, that's where the practice moves from a practice to a state of being. And I think that that's the real goal.
Oh my goodness. So much gold there. So much gold there. So I don't even know where to start because you said so many powerful things. I totally agree. I think that one of the beautiful things about any healing modality is connecting people back to their body, connecting people back to their intuition, which is extremely important. So I think that for me personally, instead of having one solid morning routine where I do the same thing every single morning, like I meditate for this amount of time every single morning, I check in every day and I'm like,
yes.
What do you need? What do I need to fill my cup? What do I need to feel my best? What do I need to feel magnetic and vibrant and abundant? And I do that. So I have a lot of different things, whether it's sound therapy, whether it's journaling, whether it's movement, yoga, like I may need to stretch. Sometimes I need to throw on some music and twerk, like whatever it is.
Yes, yes, I like 100%, like all of it, absolutely. And again,
Yeah.
like I said, the 4 M's, for me, it's really about showing people that it's not about a panacea. It's not about a magic pill. It's about a variety. It's about a toolkit. It's about having a toolkit and then developing, like you said, checking in with myself, which requires self-awareness. It's about developing your self-awareness so that you can feel when you're off, and like, you know what that flavor of off is like, kind of like when you get really good at cooking and you can taste it and you're like, salt, sugar, pepper. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. It's like being able to be like, I think I need to twerk today. Oh, I think I need Beyonce. I think I need to play some Beyonce. Wait, actually, I think I need some sound bowls, you know? And it's really about, don't ever stop with one thing, you know? Like, don't just do hatha yoga. Don't just do vinyasa yoga. Like, you know, like try and constantly expand and see how your system, because everyone's also different. Like your nervous system's different, so you might receive a certain treatment in a completely different way than someone else might receive it. So when you're constantly listening to what gurus and guides tell you, oh, do this, do that, they're talking from their own experience, you know? So just try everything and never stop trying. Like, I would much rather have a buffet than like a single course every single day. I'd much rather be like, you know what, I want that, you know?
I love it. I love it. Another thing I want to touch on before we wrap up is how you said you rolled on like a foam roller and it released a certain emotion and you were back to like your 6-year-old self. I believe we have trapped emotions. We store stuff, and a lot of healing modalities, especially sound therapy, is healing on a cellular level. So it's allowing that release into different areas of our body and paying attention to that. You know, I stress this all the time on this podcast. Our bodies are constantly talking to us. So every ache, every pain, everything that you feel is your body communicating with you. So really listening to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I had that diagram of like the aligned and aware self. And so it's like we have compartmentalized our conception of self. You know, we're like gym, restaurant, you know, and so you know, it's the integration of like knowing that your body is a completely integrated whole. Like, you know, the on a cellular level, like you were talking about, on a cellular level, when you get out of the intelligence of the mind and you just, even like basic biological knowledge, you know that the body is aware. And the awareness, just because you yourself are not aware of something doesn't mean it's not happening. So there are many processes that happen on a cellular level that I'm not aware of, and that's for my own protection. If my mind, if me, Brennan, if I was in charge of natural processes, I would die. If I was telling my heart to beat and I was like, I don't know if I can do my job today, my heart would die, you know? And so it's like tuning into that and then knowing that everything's connected. Everything's connected. And I actually would really, I promote like myofascial release as like one of those things that everyone must do, like really, really, because there's like so much stuff that we like keep in our tissue. So for those who don't know, myofascial release is like you know, those like foam rolling balls or like little balls, or like I have a Theracane, like a little cane that presses into these pressure points and like releases these muscles and tissues that might have been like really tight for a really long time. So it's like that alone has been a huge part of my healing. Like I've released stuff where I'm like, oh my God, I'm like rolling here in around my heart chakra, just like listening to some meditation music, and then boom, I'm like 7 years old, and like I'm like a really specific memory, and I'm like crying, and then it releases, and I'm like, wow, that was like here in this tissue for years. Like, whoa.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And I know I used to own a dance studio, and we
Mm.
used to do like fascia massage. Like we would take the foam balls and the hips. We store so many emotions in the hips. Oh my goodness. So
The
there's
hips
like a
don't lie.
certain, say that again.
The hips don't lie.
Exactly. Yeah, there was one where you have like the foam roller on your hips, and it that is like one area that I feel like gets me, like it gets me. And I actually I went through some like inner work, like releasing resentment towards my dad, and when I was purging that, my hip locked up for like a week. Like I was like limping. Like our bodies are so amazing. Like I say this on the podcast, we are powerful, amazing beings, and the knowledge is there. If you lean in and you want to heal and you want to release things and you want to get over, you know, some pain or trauma, or release the pre-programming so you can gravitate towards the abundance, the knowledge is there. Our bodies are telling us exactly what we need. Is just, are we listening? Are we connected enough to our intuition to pick up the nudges?
Exactly. And it's a protection, like your body is like like there's this mothering feminine energy that is the source of all healing. And it is like this inner mother within us. And just like, I think of my mom when I was young, and we'd like, Mom, where are we going? She's like, just stay with the car. Just just stay with the car. Like, mom knows what she's doing. You don't need to know everything. And you won't understand everything that I have to do until you are a parent, And so there's like a need for us to be in the world and of the world. And so if our traumas and our problems are constantly in our awareness, then we can't be of the world. So our body like pushes it down and puts it in different areas, just packs it away because we still need to survive. And so it's like a survival mechanism. So sometimes just because something's out of our awareness, we're like, oh, I think I've healed it. No, you just forgotten about it. And
Mhm.
then something happens and it comes back up and you're like, oh, I'm a broken person. And it's like, no, it's just like it's just still there, and you've got to release it. So I am 100% with you, and we are like so aligned in that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I have absolutely enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming on. So, if someone wants to reach out to you, to follow your journey, to work with you, to meditate with you, where can they find you online?
So you can find my website at my name, brennanlagman.com. And so that should be on the podcast. And then you can also follow me on Facebook, Brennan Lagman, and then on Instagram, Brennan Lagman. Luckily, like all of my platforms just use my name. And so, yeah, I am a meditation coach, and I specifically help digital entrepreneurs of color. But it's not like, if you're not a person of color, or even if you're not a digital entrepreneur, like, and you resonate with me, like, I help people, but my marketing is focused on digital entrepreneurs of color. So I help people to use meditation as a tool to, like we were talking about, to really dive into their inner awareness and remove that which is really blocking them from being in energetic alignment with the success that they are looking for. So I help entrepreneurs use meditation as a tool to really like get clear in your mental and emotional space, so that you can deal with all of the stress of running your own online business from that like meditative state.
I love it. I love it. So I will have all your links in the show notes so people can definitely follow you. And you are absolutely amazing. Your framework is brilliant. I think it's a really amazing way to explain meditation to people so they can understand it. Because I think sometimes people are like, I can't meditate.
Oh, absolutely.
And they
I hear
just
that all
have
the
this one picture. So I'm really grateful for this episode to just spread that awareness. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And it's a pleasure to meet you. And I want to definitely stay connected and see how we can collaborate in the future, because we're definitely like aligned in so many ways. And it's not my show, so I didn't have a chance to interview you, but I have a podcast in the work. It's my goal next year to have that set up. So then you can return the favor, and I can return the favor and get to know a little bit more about your story and how you come to be the healer in the manifestation that you are.
I love it. And yes, we're definitely going to stay in contact because I'm coming to visit in Vietnam.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
coming to
when
visit.
America gets their
We're
shit
doing the
together,
spa day.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. All right, M&Ms. Until next time, be decadent.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.